Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I am Dr. K.R. Ram Mohan, Associate Professor, Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on the importance of village studies in anthropology. This module comes from the paper Indian Anthropology. From this module, the student shall able to know the main three parts regarding the issues for which a village study is important. Why village study is important? To know the socio-political aspects, the economic aspects, as the interlap between socio-political and economic studies, and the scientific approaches to village studies. The historical aspects of village studies are also covered in this model. Now, to begin with, when we hear the word village, what does it occur to us? What do you mean by village? Is it different from the urban centers? And why does village is unique? In one of the famous quotes, Mahatma Gandhi said, "The real India is not Calcutta and Bombay. India lives in her 700,000 villages." Means that India comprises of villages and there are only few cities in the entire country. So the whole mass, the whole population are spread out in all the nook and corner of the Indian state. And the real life we can see or witness only in villages but not in the metropolitan cities. In that sense, Mahatma Gandhi reiterated the fact that to understand the social fabric of India, one has to necessarily see how a village is structured and how people live in villages. Now, this is what forms an important insight to the extent of or the magnitude of how villages have been spread over and why they remain like that forever. Thousands of villages are still there without any change. What makes them not to change? So these are the important issues anthropologists got confronted and interested to take up these studies in these areas. That way it gathered the momentum and see what constitutes a village and why village is so unique in terms of comparing to other urban centers. Is it because of just it is a socio-economically different, or it has anything unique compared to other geographical areas? Now, before we go into the finer details of the village studies and its importance, what makes or what qualifies a village in a true demographic sense? As per India census, latest 2011 census, all places with a municipality, a corporation or a cantonment board are notified as town area communities. So declared by a state law are called statutory towns. Barring these towns, the villages thus hold a residual definition where they do not fall under any kinds of statutory towns or categories according to the census are all forms under villages. Now going back to the census, approximately or more precisely, the total number of villages in India are 6,38,596 have been fully identified as villages. Out of these things, there are 5,93,731 villages were inhabited. The rest were sparsely distributed here and there and all. So approximately around 68% of the total population resides in these villages. That means only 32% or 30% of the people lives in small towns, big towns, and few large cities in our country. So going with the numbers, it is approximately 84 crore people lives in these villages. Hardly 10 crores, 12 crores lives in cities. So there lies the crux of demographically villages are spread over, population wise villages are more outnumbered than the urban cities in India. If we compare Indian situation with other countries or the other developed nations, where there are only 13% of their population resides in villages and the rest of them stays in the towns or in the cities, or even to a great nation like USA, only 18% of them are in rural areas and almost 82% are in urban areas. So in that sense, India is predominantly a society, or we can say it's a village society, because India is spread over with all kinds of villages. In every state, there is no single state without any village or a rural habitation. Now, when we say that certain population is in villages, certain population is in urban towns, that means the only difference between an urban, a town and a village is their socio-economic indicators. To what extent a country is fully developed, to what extent a country is not developed. By taking the population figures and the villages spread over, we can say that India is not a developed country because India is full of villages. Now, let us understand, because it is the economic indicators informs us that villages are not fully developed like urban centers. Let us see what are the other socio-political aspects which make significantly unique when compared to the cities. So it all starts with the concept of social structure, because the social structure of the village is entirely different with the social structure of a city. So the study of social structure start with a group of individuals, and we know various definitions of what makes a social structure. Atlee Brown, Robert Merton, all they have sociologists and anthropologists have given a full understanding of what makes a social structure. So when we say that the social structure is different from village to a city, here in a village, a small group of individuals residing, either it could be in a small hamlet or a bigger or group of hamlets spreading over in the same village constitute the primary unit to understand the village, or it is the base to understand a hamlet where a group of people are residing together could form as a basic unit of analysis in studying village structure. Now, how do they interact each other in these hamlets is a significant sociological and anthropological concept, because the interaction in a hamlet is different from interaction in the city, and the variables are different, because in an urban setting they have set of attributes to deal with, and in village you have set of attributes to deal with. It could be language, it could be religion, it could be physical environment, and any other aspect which falls under the study. So the significant works on village studies with the proper methodological rigor, with the proper using of an anthropological lens to study villages began with or significant contributions have come from M13 of his own methodology and perspectives on studying village societies. And he says that there is a lack of fieldwork tradition to study villages, particularly in social sciences. It is only sociology and social anthropology we can grasp the realities in a village life. So, M.N. Srinivas is stressing the need to have fieldwork to understand the contextual village, to understand its historical roots, to understand village growth, to understand the development, which makes us that how various social attributes like social, economic, political, all comes as a handy and begins as a holistic way of understanding villages. And M.N. Srin was stressing the importance of participant observation, where the ethnographer has to live, has to understand, has to participate to a large extent to understand the rural life, the village life. Only then one can come into terms what makes a village and how a village is functioning, sustaining, and in that sense, how it is developing. And he says that participant method or participant observation is a highly productive methodological tool and aid in understanding the social reality, because a village life is centered around culture. Even participant observation not only useful in the village studies, it goes beyond in understanding larger geographical areas at regional, at state, at national and international levels. Because participant observation as an approach, as a process, serve as a system of apprenticeship, and it makes to help in interpreting the data on social institutions, which are very crucial for the intellectual development takes place in a particular geographical area. So one has to come out with the wrong notion that Participant observation is only for small studies. Participant observation goes from simple to even complex societies. It need not necessarily restrict or understood only in terms of at a village level. And one of the significant contributions in the village studies, both in sociology and anthropology, are given by Henri Bitte. He is popularly known for his acute analysis and methodological rigor in putting out much knowledge and contribution from his village studies. So Bitte focuses on the constraints to do extensive fieldwork. And Bitte explains how these very constraints can become a source of insights, and these hurdles could not be seen as something which is blocking, but these hurdles are opportunities to gain insight, to study the village society and its culture. So in one of his work, Bitte provided a graphic account of the tribulations involved in participant observation when Bitte was started living in a highly socially stratified village. Not only from these two social scientists, Dr. Ambedkar has also offered a radical critique to the Indian village on the origins of caste system. And Ambedkar was critique that caste system is so deeply rooted and it gives all kinds of socio-political institutions. And Ambedkar's views are village republics as being nowhere near democratic because they are sectarian on the basis of caste lines. So for Ambedkar, he says that villages are sink of localisms in a sense that people are divided on the basis of caste. People do not have an opportunity to come out of their ignorance. Being thus, it leads to narrow-mindedness. And this leads to social exclusion among the people. While continuing the village studies and its social structure and how different scholars have opined the structural aspects and features of village studies, we need to understand how a village is ordered, how a village has set up on its own in terms of its social order, and how this social order impacts the overall social life. So if you can see, majority of the villages in India, the housing pattern or the residential pattern is often based on, or it is often arranged on individual caste identities. So in a sense that a group of families belonging to one caste are placed in one area within the village. Another set of group of people who are based on another social identity are placed in some other place. The upper castes have one residential area. The backward castes have one residential area. And the lower castes, who are often historically considered as untouchables, are placed most of the time outside the village or at the periphery of the village. This is explicitly seen, noticed in most of the villages in India. Why this is so? because the structural aspects are constructed and divides these people objectively in the human settlements. And there is a clear-cut distinction between that if you go this street belongs to that caste group. If you go to that street belongs to this group. So here caste plays an important role in deciding the social order. At the same time, social mobility within a caste or community may not always depend on the economic status. Even the erstwhile British rulers themselves have ignited the caste system by perpetuating for a long time, by creating specifically all the upper caste people who are considered as jamindari system to collect land revenues for the British people on commission basis. So hence there is a clear-cut division between jamindaris, who are all basically belongs to the upper and elite class of the society village, and the Raitwari, the working class or the peasantry, which always belongs to backward and lower caste peasants. The lower caste only could get land rights by paying amounts or commissions to the British government. Though this system was officially banned soon after India became independent, but still the percentage of land holding by the backward classes and lower castes is comparatively very nil vis-a-vis the upper caste. So this has an historical precedence of the present realities in the village structure. So to understand the social interactions amongst the various caste groups within the village, which are clearly demarcated by physical spaces, like the lowest caste groups which have considered to be polluting the other caste groups are placed on the peripheries of the village, that these are all untouchable colonies. Then comes the backward classes, the serving classes, and the ruling class or the upper caste or the ritually purity caste like the Brahmins. So to understand this village structure, anthropologists, we must look into do participant observation. Only then we can come to know what is happening in a village. But the same is also applied to semi-urban and urban areas as well. Now the same caste system has even pervaded to even the political structures in the villages. If you see the historical processes and the present day context of the political structure in village, it is strengthened by the 73rd Amendment of our Indian Constitution in India as way back in 1992, where the government of India has introduced the Panchayat Raj system, Panchayat Raj institution, to empower the local people, because it is understood that only one section of the community is controlling other sections in the village. For example, the upper castes are controlling the backward castes and lower castes. To wipe out these inequalities, the federal state, the Constitution of India clearly states that in no way that there should be inequality on any grounds, be it caste, religion, language, region, and it should also not spill over in the political bodies. So with the spirit of this constitution, Panchayat Raj system was introduced to empower and to give people governance into their own hands. You rule your own way. You come out with your own felt needs. It is not from the top to bottom, it is from bottom to the top. And by this, the government wants to make all the villages as autonomous units. You can rule your own way. There is no external influence on you. So if you see the etymological meaning of panchayat and raj, panchayati raj, the word panchayat means assembly, where people all come together. They discuss what is needed for the village. What do they require immediately? What are their priorities and what are their perceptions, so that they can rule by themselves. So this constitution amendment has brought uniformity across all the states to change the social structure of the village, because social structure of the village, we have now discussed, is based on the caste system. To break down this caste system social structure, Panchayat Raj wants to give a reconfiguration of this structural aspects of the village by introducing the Panchayat Raj institution, by taking the governance into the individual's hands, so that one can have the right to control their own village system. Now, if you look at the three levels of Panchayat system, one is at the Jilla, the district level, which is called the Panchayat. This Panchayat has the intermediate level with the blocks of villages, and at the bottom level is the village. So village, cluster of village, and cluster of villages to the district level. Now, Constitution of India also guarantees that one should have the right to franchise, to elect your own body of members. So in a Gram Panchayat, the head of the Panchayat is a Sarpanch, which has been elected every 5 years. So this Panchayat has this, comes under certain blocks, or one can call as a block Panchayat, which all these blocks fall under a bigger district. And people have the power to utilize the funds which have been allocated for the village development at village level, at block level, and at the district level. So the head of the Panchayat will try to see how these funds are being used for different purposes, like healthcare, like education, like sanitation, like water, improvement of infrastructure, and various other things. And people are accountable for all these things. People can claim where the funds are going on, how the funds are being utilized. So this process is called decentralization. Political decentralization means that the administrative is not coming from New Delhi to the village. The money might have come from New Delhi, but the governance is not coming from New Delhi. People in Delhi do not know what is happening in the village. They cannot administer from Delhi. So the whole idea, the spirit is that in a village level should know to control their own means and ends. That is the logic behind this Panchayat Raj system. So this means that politically, the alignment of village electorate during elections, either for state assembly or parliament, will necessarily starts with the Panchayat members. So in that context, one has to study, having understood the whole concept of what is a village and what makes a village, and why village is an important social unit to study. We have learned that village is very important in a sense that because India lies in villages. Thousands of villages are there in India. And how a village operates. A village operates on its own because of its social organization and social structure. And it is noticed that in villages, the basic social structure is centered upon the caste system. So caste system dictates or orders people by giving occupation, by framing certain unwritten rules between how to interact with the other members of the social groups in the village. Many scholars have opined that perhaps there is an internal logic to maintenance and sustenance of villages, but caste system is predominantly seen in the settlement pattern, in the occupations people do, and caste system also makes people how do they interact with other members. Though traditionally, historically, caste system is been there is one viewpoint shares that it is the British government also supported indirectly the caste system by giving all the important positions to the privileged caste groups. Hence, it has become some kind of an historical practice that even today the privileged caste group still hold large power and huge amount of land holdings when it comes to economic power. Having been this reality, the Constitution of India has framed certain rules and regulations to wipe out these inequalities by changing the social structure. And it was in 1992, the Panchayat Raj system has been introduced to see that caste should not become an important feature in the governance system. And Panchayat Raj system makes people empowered to become more voice, to articulate their needs, and it should not be in one hands of one social group. And hence, to know Panchayat Raj system, it starts with the village level. A group of villages becomes the block level, and all the blocks becomes under one district level. And the funds come from the central government, and it is the people's responsibility to see whether these funds are used properly or not. This is an initiative mechanism to see that the age-old village social political structure should be replaced with the new affirmative actions of Panchayat Raj system. If you look at the whole economic structure, majority of the land is controlled by some group of people, and most of the villages falls under the below poverty line. So if you look at the whole gross domestic products, which is very, very low, and it needs to be addressed that why rural economy is lagging behind. Hence, government has initiated a lot of programs to bring the average per capita income in all the villages. So in this sense, all aspects of villages need to be studied. As M.N. Srinivas pointed out that to understand village studies, one has to do participant observation. Only then the actual realities will be known, understood, and we can comprehend the realities of village life and village studies.